So you can see still the like little pockets of red where all the cardinals are standing on the balconies.
And from our Vati drone footage, and seeing it from above there, it's a unique view perched above in front of the facade and looking down at them as they're on the balconies there, awaiting now as the new Pope, as we mentioned there, Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost, and Pope Leo
XIV.
The 14th.
Yes.
Pope Leo the
14th.
The 14th.
Yes. And of course, Leo the 13th was the great social reforming Pope for us.
He was the great social reformer.
Yeah, and he died in 1903, so still fairly recent in the grand scheme of things.
Was Pope Leo the one with Rerum Novarum?
Yes, exactly.
There you go, good memory.
Yes.
From my seminary days.
And then his successors wrote other encyclicals every 40 years afterwards.
So he started like a trend.
Yes, and it's really one of the constitutions of Catholic social ministry and Catholic
probably
social
I would
doctrine.
say a Pope needed for our times with all the social challenges the world has today.
Yes.
And he's, relatively young, 69 years old, born on the 14th of September, 1955, as we mentioned, in Chicago, Illinois, and so 69.
Well, and Father Paul, as you were just saying, I agree, and maybe Father Bob, you can really stress this point because you work in social work humanitarian, exactly,
integral human development.
So this is an important aspect of the church.
The Catholic Catholic social teaching, I think, is important.
Very.
And it's often called the untold story of the church, or perhaps the hidden secret of the church, and it has so much, and there's a lot of development.
And was one of the needs discussed by the cardinals during their congregations this last week too. So.
Exactly.
Oh, there we see the American flag.
There's flag there. People are thrilled about this.
Yeah, and there's quite a number of American students. Dr. O'Donnell was here, and he was going to be in the square with his American students. So you can imagine them cheering.
Yes,
it'll be a treat for them, indeed. Yes.
I can imagine the scene. The house I live behind is the Basilica of St. Augustine, where we have also the tomb of St. Monica inside there.
Yes.
So it must be a great day for all the Augustinians there.
Yes.
Yeah, very special day.
Yes.
Indeed, he, looking at his biography in going back to more recent history, 1999, he was elected the provincial prior of the Mother of Good Counsel province in Chicago of the Augustinians, and after 2.5 years, the ordinary general chapter elected him prior general of the order of the OSAs. Ministry again entrusted to him in 2007 at their ordinary general chapter. And reading here, in October 2013, he returned to his province of Chicago to serve as teacher of the professed and provincial. He served as, and then let's see his roles there. And 3rd of November 2014, when Pope Francis appointed him apostolic minister of the Diocese of Chiclayo in Peru, where he served many years, and he was made a bishop there, and served there for many years. And then in March 2018, he became second vice president of the Peruvian Episcopal Conference, so working as a missionary there, a missionary bishop as well in Peru. Here we're seeing these beautiful shots of the Vati drone there, of at the same level almost of those balconies, and all the cardinals kind of crowded in those balconies.
And they look like they have the same anticipation that we do.
Exactly. Exactly. Any moment now, Pope Leo the 14th will be appearing.
Pope Leo the 14th
will be appearing from that balcony.
Pope Leo the 14th.
Looking again at his predecessor, well, the person he took the name from before, Leo the 13th, Pope Leo the 13th had the third longest papacy, well, verified papacy that we know of, behind Peter, the apostle, and then John Paul II. So one from way back in church history and one from our very recent history.
Long live the Pope.
Exactly. No, and even on the screens now you can see a lot of people climbing up on the what are they? The lampposts in St. Peter's Square,
Anything to get a better
craning,
view.
yes, just trying to get a good view of the new Pope.
And there we have the cardinals. These are the cardinal electors, right?
Mm-hmm, right. The ones that helped make this decision.
Yes.
Which, since we had 133 cardinal electors, then we had to have a majority of 89 cardinal electors to vote for cardinal.
I found intriguing the fact that the voting takes place in the Sistine Chapel, where you have the last judgment.
Right.
So whatever you do, whatever you decide, that's between you and the Lord.
Yes.
Because the weight of the responsibility is so great. So very fitting, very telling, eh?
Right. Well, and before you came in, Father Paul, Dr. Liz Lev was talking about the Pauline Chapel, and that's where the new Pope, now Pope Leo the 14th, when he will walk down this hallway in the chapel, and at the end of the chapel is an image of Peter crucified upside down, but the artist turned his head so that when the new Pope is walking down the hallway, Peter's eyes are following him.
Here we are.
There we are.
Pope Leo the 14th is now
Pope
appearing,
Leo the 14th.
coming to the central loggia of the Basilica.
Very special moment.
Very special moment.
And here he is. There he is,
And the applause going up, the greeting, the waving,
big
the smiles.
How amazing.
How amazing.
And Dr. Liz Lev was also talking about the symbolism of the red that he's wearing. You know, it is a sacrificial role, and that is the symbol of the cloth that he's wearing right now.
And we see this beautiful close-up view from the side there at the same level as the loggia. Pope Leo the 14th.
Pope Leo the 14th.
Amazing. Smiling.
A smiling
and
Pope, yes.
You can see who wouldn't be taken by the moment. And
I think going through his
emotion.
mind, you know, the weight of this responsibility.
Oh, yeah. You can see it on his face.
You can see it on his face.
Amazing.
After this, you're never the same person.
No. No.
And we're hearing the bands below, the mutual salute of the anthems, the hymns, Vatican hymn and the Italian national anthem, as we do traditionally at the Easter and Christmas, as we've mentioned.
And after this, now Pope Leo the 14th, he will give a greeting and impart his first apostolic blessing, the Urbi et Orbi, to the city and to the whole world.
So that blessing extends to everyone who is watching, everyone who is listening, your family, wherever you are. It's a great moment to prepare ourselves for this first blessing.
And this most solemn blessing, you can just feel and see the emotion on his face.
Yeah.
And the crowds that are gathered in St. Peter's Square still arriving, we're being told, from the avenues surrounding the Vatican there, the streets and the...
So just getting messages here, congratulations, God bless the Pope. And you can hear the chanting from the square.
Long live the Pope. Viva il Papa. Viva il Papa.
Viva il Papa.
And we're all silent now, awaiting his first words.
Di Dio. Anch'io vorrei che questo saluto di pace entrasse nel vostro cuore, raggiungesse le vostre famiglie, a tutte le persone, ovunque siano, a tutti i popoli, a tutta la terra. La pace sia con voi. Questa è la pace di Cristo risorto, una pace disarmata e una pace disarmante, umile e perseverante. Proviene da Dio, Dio che ci ama a tutti incondizionalmente. Ancora conserviamo nei nostri orecchi quella voce debole ma sempre coraggiosa di Papa Francesco che benediva Roma. Il Papa che benediva Roma dava la sua benedizione al mondo intero quella mattina del giorno di Pasqua. Consentitemi di dar seguito a quella stessa benedizione. Dio ci vuole bene, Dio vi ama tutti e il male non prevarrà. Siamo tutti nelle mani di Dio. Pertanto, senza paura, uniti, mano nella mano con Dio e tra di noi, andiamo avanti. Siamo discepoli di Cristo. Cristo ci precede. Il mondo ha bisogno della sua luce. L'umanità necessita di Lui come il ponte per essere raggiunta da Dio e dal suo amore. Aiutateci anche voi, poi gli uni gli altri, a costruire ponti con il dialogo, con l'incontro, unendoci tutti per essere un solo popolo, sempre in pace. Grazie a Papa Francesco. Voglio ringraziare anche tutti i confratelli cardinali che hanno scelto me per essere successore di Pietro e camminare insieme a voi come Chiesa unita, cercando sempre la pace, la giustizia, cercando sempre lavorare come uomini e donne fedeli a Gesù Cristo.
Pope Leo offering these initial words, which we're just translating on the fly here. I'm a son of St. Augustine, and I'm an Augustinian who said, with you I am a Christian, and for you I am a bishop. So may we all walk together towards that, to the place that God has prepared for us. May we walk together, accompany each other. To the Church of Rome, a special greeting. As Bishop of Rome, of course, his special greeting. We've got to look at how we can together be a missionary church. A church that builds bridges. That is always open to receive everyone, just like in this square, to receive everyone, to welcome everyone. Our charity our dialogue and love. And now a greeting in Spanish. Please allow me here to.
So to all of you, but especially to the people of my diocese of Chiclayo in Peru, where we had such faithful people accompanying the bishop, and we had such faithful people helping the bishop. To all of you, the people of Rome and of Italy, we need to be a synodal church, a church that's a pilgrim, that shows charity always, and especially is charitable to those who are suffering. Today is the day of praying to the Madonna of Papal. Our Blessed Mother Mary always wants to be close to us. She always wants to intercede for us through her love. So let us pray together for this new mission, for all of the church, for peace in the world, that she will help us give us a special grace, our Mother. So, Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with you. You are blessed among women, and blessed is the fruit of your womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the end hour of our death. Amen.
Pope Leo XIV there.
Pope Leo XIV, very interesting. A few themes coming out already there from his first speech, talking about peace.
Mm-hmm. Indeed, saying a greeting of peace. May my greeting of peace enter into your hearts and reach your families. All people, wherever you are, all peoples of the entire planet. Right. May peace be with you. God's peace be with you, he said. And here we see him in after having given that opening and beautiful words.
Continuing also the message of Pope Francis, where he even said in Spanish and Italian, tutti, 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 todos. And
the Holy Father, Pope Leo, and to all people in the square and all receiving or hearing this through new technology, online, everywhere, offers his the plenary indulgence in the formula established by the Church. We pray to Almighty God that he may keep the Pope and protect him and guide the Church and the entire world. Now he'll give this most solemn blessing to the entire world, to all of you joining us.
To everyone.
So we now prepare ourselves to receive this solemn blessing wherever we are, at home, in your car, at work, wherever you are.
So the holy apostles Peter and Paul, and we also pray to the Blessed Mary, to Saint John
gratiam et consolationem Sancti Spiritus, et finalem perseverantiam in bonibus tribuat vobis omnipotens et misericors Dominus. Amen. Et benedictio Dei omnipotentis, Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti descendat super vos et maniat semper.
And we just heard the blessing there, received the blessing there of Pope Leo XIV, and to the world, to the city, this most solemn blessing to all of us and all of you visiting and watching out there.
What is interesting, he is smiling, and I found very touching the fact that he made reference to his former diocese in Peru and spoke to them in Spanish. You know, very, very touching moment, and how they are thanking them for how they accompanied him. And so from this moment, I think we all accompany the new Holy Father with our prayers and support.
And once again, he asked, just like Pope Francis did before, he asked for continued prayers. You know, this is a heavy task, as we all noted before, and he continues to ask all of us for prayers and also for the intercession of Our Lady on the special feast day.
And he asked us especially to be bridge builders, as he is, Pontifex, a bridge builder as well, but that we should all be building bridges, both here in the Diocese of Rome, in Italy, and throughout the world. And that we should build that on fraternity and on solidarity and on dialogue. So many times Pope Francis told us the same. You know, there have been false debates, I think, in leading up to this about unity and diversity and things, but he's made it clear that he's looking for us to be united, but also to be the bridge builders and to bring about peace in the world through our bridge building.
We're seeing this stunning footage, or this video of our Vati drone there going close to the balcony and seeing, I think for the first time, unique images like this up close of the new Pope.
And there's about 100,000 people we're getting in this square right now who are seeing Pope Leo XIV for the first time.
There's Sister Norma Pimentel from the border of Texas and Mexico that Pope Francis, she spoke to him when he was there.
That's amazing, all the people who are appearing in the square now, and the connections they had, present and past. Again, quite a novelty, an American Pope.
Right.
And here he is waving, and again, once again, you can see the emotion and sense of responsibility,
the weight of the office.
Well, and this is a beautiful view, seeing from inside the loggia, looking out, what he would see as he waves to the crowds.
It's a very interesting place there, TJ. I don't know if you remember, we used to do the commentaries from that place.
Indeed, commentary positions behind, off to the side of that big hall of blessings, and after those blessings, we would greet the Pope as well, briefly afterward, on Easter or at Christmas. And well, that's our historic moment. The warning is over. We have a new Pope.
The warning is over.
Okay.
And you know, Monsignor Vito, you were telling us here about, I mean, you were translating the prayer. This is the prayer that is read, or the blessing, I'm sorry.
The Urbi et Orbi.
The Urbi et Orbi.
Sure. Do you want to read
why not?
it now?
Sure.
So, may the holy apostles Peter and Paul, in whose power and authority we trust, intercede before the Lord, through the prayers and merits of Blessed Mary ever Virgin, St. Michael the Archangel, St. John the Baptist, the holy apostles Peter and Paul, all the saints. May Almighty God have mercy on you and forgive you all your sins, and may Jesus Christ bring you to everlasting life. And then he speaks about the indulgence and the absolution and remission of sins, and then he also gives the blessing. I'm not entitled to give the Urbi et Orbi blessing, but we heard it from him.
But again, it's the most solemn blessing that he gives and imparts. And again, in his words, he offered greetings of peace to everyone everywhere, and stressed that he wishes to be a builder of peace in his ministry, and to that we can all be part of that in our own efforts and in what we do.
And the 2 or 3 times mentioning the word missionary, I think probably also echoing his own experience as a missionary, a bishop, and now a pope. I found also that very touching, this openness to the world. And he's someone who is coming from the outside. He has been in the Korea, and now, so he has both worlds. And this is very interesting and quite assuring, I think, for the church.
Well, and he comes from the Americas, so while he is an American by birth, being born in Chicago, he has connections to Peru, and so I think it's a beautiful continuity, between the two, the Americas right there. And as we see on the Vati drone, we're getting a good image of the apostles lined up on St. Peter's, the facade there. And you still see the massive crowds that have gathered, over at least 100,000 people, both in the piazza right there and beyond, past Via Conciliazione and our office even.
Indeed. And then, again, that embrace of the 2 colonnades is just unique. It has a warm feeling to it of, welcoming and embracing those present there in the crowds. Now, we're going to try and go back down on to the square there to our own Joseph Tulloch in the square.
Our roving journalist.
Our roving reporter. We're trying to connect with him. Again, it happens that the cell coverage there gets pretty saturated, even if it's pretty extensive. So we're waiting to link up with him to get some direct feedback from him.
But while we wait for that, as you were just mentioning, TJ, about the arms of the colonnade, and that ties in perfectly with what Pope Leo XIV was talking about also in his Urbi et Orbi, the blessing and the greeting, where he speaks about we need to be welcoming to all people, tutti, 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 todos, todos, todos. And so it continues. I mean, you get that welcoming embrace from the square, but then also from our new Pope, which is a continuity also from the late Pope Francis, who initiated that, with his famous line, todos, todos, todos.
Exactly. Everyone is welcome.
It was interesting that he said, for you, I'm a bishop. With you, I'm a Christian.
Yes. That was really beautiful.
A quotation from St. Augustine, I think, yeah?
Well, and it's true. It's a nice, it's a good way to identify himself, that we're all Christians, but he's also a shepherd when he was a bishop, but then now as the Bishop of Rome and the head of the Catholic Church.
Again, embracing everyone, inviting everyone, basically underscoring the unity that brings us together, both Christians, non-Christians, everyone.
And it means, TJ, we are going to see that unity you're talking about in the synodality, because he did refer to synodality as well.
He did, and that word meaning talking to, hearing everyone's opinion and dialoguing together, listening to one another. That's what, in a sense, the basics of synodality, in terms of listening to one another and seeing where we can talk about things and come to understand one another and where we're coming from and maybe the best way to go forward together. And we're going to be on, just to let you all know, we're going to be on the air here for a little while longer, at least another, probably about an hour here, to provide more updates on what's happening and trying to connect to St. Peter's Square there with our own Joseph Tulloch. We're trying to get through there, and once we get through, we're going to chat with them and get some a sense of what it's like out there. I mean, the crowds are still there, although the square is slowly starting to empty now. And we're seeing the bands there that just performed earlier leaving. And again, an incredible moment. It's amazing to have a pope from North America, from the United States, and but one who's also lived and worked internationally, as you mentioned, Peru, and then here at the Vatican. In fact, his Italian is very fluent. We're going to take a little break here, little musical interval, and we're going to come back,
I'll be right back.
Just shortly here. So stay tuned.
Cardinal Robert Prevost, now Pope Leo XIV, presented to the public, received with cheers and jubilation by the crowd in St. Peter's Square. The 267th Pope, the first American pontiff, now leads the Catholic Church. Stay with us, and we'll bring you more news right after this break.
Imagine a coffee that cares for your health. Expertly fermented with a 50 enzyme complex to enhance flavor and remove bitterness. Small batch roasted to a decadent medium dark, resulting in a brew that is gentle on digestion, low acid, and up to 90% less caffeine than regular coffee. Try America's first enzyme fermented coffee today.
This is such a gentle painting, so beautifully portrayed.
A group of people reading together in this simple, everyday-looking living room. A young girl reading along with an adult, a grandparent sitting in the lotus position, a businessman in his typical suit.
You see all those people, they look like they have quietly settled down there. And you as a viewer, it looks like you've just stepped in the door.
You can't see what it is they're reading, so you're a little bit curious and you're kind of invited to walk in.
This harmonious feeling is not by accident. It is the very subject of the work. The book they are reading is the main text of Falun Gong, which is an ancient Chinese spiritual discipline in the Buddhist tradition. At the core of Falun Gong are the values of truthfulness, compassion, and forbearance. Unfortunately, the practice is banned in China, where the artist resides. Thousands have been killed for their faith. Golden energy blooms into the room as a result of their steadfast faith. The painting on the back wall reminds us of this work's title, Plum Blossoms in a Muddy World.
It's also a metaphor for the practitioners that are sitting in the room as plum blossoms.
They signify perseverance and hope that all brutal winters end and life is renewed once again.
The magical painting.
You can talk to me if you're feeling sad.
Thanks for hearing me out, bro.
Whenever you need to talk, I'm here, okay?
It's going to become more complicated. This is going to allow us to better manage the airspace, to allow the airlines to better manage their flights. So when you take off, you actually fly and you land. You don't circle airports. You're going to take off and you're going to fly directly. This system will allow that efficiency to take place in the airspace. So in essence, all the front-facing equipment for controllers, all the back-end systems for controllers, all brand new. All new hardware, all new software is going to be built into this brand new air traffic control system. And some of you might say, well, how are you going to do that in any reasonable amount of time? I've told you we're going to do this in 3 or 4 years. Well, I can't just announce it to you and say it's going to happen in 3 to 4 years. I need help. I can't do it by myself. And it's going to take the help of the Congress to make that happen. Part of them are here today. So to do it in 3 or 4 years, we need all of the money up front, right? One of the problems of the past is when you give small tranches of money year over year, politics change, leadership changes, presidents change, interest changes, and it never gets built. So I'm going to ask the Congress for upfront appropriations to give us all the money. I'll come before the Congress every quarter and give them an update of how far we've built, how much money we've spent. They can pressure test what's been done to do the oversight to make sure we're doing this correctly. But on top of that, we also need permitting reform, some form of clearing the deck so we don't have to deal with all of the regulation around permitting, so we can actually build this quickly. If we go through the permitting process and don't get the money, this is going to be the same old thing. It's going to take us 10, 15 years to build this, and by the time we get done with it, what we're going to build is already going to be old technology. So we want to build this in 3 to 4 years, and we can do it with the help of Congress. And the last point that I want to bring up to you is, we all know what most of us know what a flip phone is. We have this system as a flip phone, right? It is what it is. You can't build anything on top of the system that we now use. It's so old. So you can't upgrade it. You can't add to it. New technology comes out and you can't deploy it. Technology that's going to make us more efficient and safer can't be deployed on what we have in America. However, if we build a brand new state-of-the-art system, which is what we want to do, then, like your iPhone, you can actually get updates. You can build on top of what we are going to have in place. So as new technology becomes available, we can actually deploy it. And we're going to build upon the safety, build on the technology, build on innovation that's going to happen in this country to continue to make airspace safer and more efficient. And so this is bold. This is going to be challenging, but we absolutely can do it. I think our country, our people, those who use the airspace, they deserve this moment in time to actually deliver an air traffic control system that's going to keep them safe, that's not going to have them delayed for 4 hours or their flights canceled, a system that works for them. I'm committed to it. The President's committed to it. I think the Congress is going to be committed to it. And so with that, what I'd like to do is, there's been a lot of individuals who have participated in making this happen. And one of the key players who have helped this vision of what we're announcing today is the acting administrator of the FAA, Chris Rushlow, which I don't know where Chris is at. Oh, there's Mr. Rushlow right there. So come on up, Chris. This guy has been remarkable in navigating the issues that have come up over the last 3 months, and has been a great partner. Chris Rushlow.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Like you, I just want to take a moment to say thank you to the families of the American Airlines Flight 5342 families that are here today. It's your voices and your advocacy that will continue to drive us to make the system better. So thank you for being here today. So let me start by saying today marks a major milestone in aviation for America. It's a day that will bring the strength of this community, this aviation community, together with the strong leadership of President Trump and Secretary Duffy. This is a moment that's defined by unity and resolve. We're all here today to commit to taking bold steps to build a new world-class air traffic system that is safer, more efficient, more resilient, and better prepared to meet the needs of the future. We all know we're facing challenges in our nation's air traffic control system today. But let me be clear, that didn't happen overnight. But it's long past the time where we need to fix this problem. And that's why I truly appreciate the Secretary's decisive actions that reflect a commitment to innovation, to efficiency, and most importantly, a safe and reliable aviation system. At the FAA, the safety of the traveling public and the people that work within that system remain the highest focus for us. While air travel remains the safest form of transportation, unless we take bold action now, we will continue to see delays and disruptions. Fortunately, President Trump and Secretary Duffy have made this issue a national priority. Their focus is propelling us to move forward with an urgency that this effort requires. We're not just planning for the future, we're actually building it. So today, I believe it's fair to say we're choosing action over inertia, partnership over division, and vision over indecision. Together, as an aviation community, we will deliver the air traffic system that America deserves. Thank you.
You know, as we do this, it's a multifaceted approach. It's the president, it's us at DOT, the FAA, but Congress is a key part of this. And you know, this is not partisan. There's a lot of things that Congress fights about that they disagree on. We can all watch that on C-SPAN or on cable news. But this is an issue that they truly work together on. And what I'd like to do is bring up two that we have with us today, Congressman Rick Larsen, the ranking member of the committee, and Sam Graves, also the chairman of the committee. And I'd also like to bring up Jennifer Hamady from the NTSB to join us as well. And I know we also had Jerry Moran from Kansas, who was here earlier. And I appreciate his presence, but I don't know that he can speak. And so maybe what we could do is, by the way, no one in Congress knows aviation better than these two, and they might fight on committee hearings and whatnot, but they actually get along pretty well, and they've been great partners as we've gone through this process. So I'm going to turn it over to Chairman Sam Graves.
I want to offer my thanks to the DCA families for being here and taking the time to come. And I wish Senator Cantwell and Senator Moran and Senator Cruz could be here. They're in the middle of a vote series, and which is obviously what they have to do, but you've got the two most important members of Congress in transportation right here, and Rick and I, when it comes to getting things done. But Sean, I got to thank you, Mr. Secretary. Your work and your strong commitment to this process is absolutely, it's absolutely outstanding. You know, we've known for decades that the air traffic control system is outdated, and Congress has passed a lot of laws to help the FAA try to get this done, and we're nowhere even remotely close to what the end goal is. And so I can honestly say, in all my years in Congress, I've never seen a secretary or a president so committed to getting this done, which means it's going to happen. And so the House of Representatives, at least the Transportation Committee, in our budget process, the bill that we passed last week, we put a down payment in on this for $12.5 billion to do all of those things that Sean was just talking about. I think we will see that through to the end, and we will start this process, and there will be more money that comes along later. But with that, this effort is long overdue. It's critically necessary, and again, Mr. Secretary, I commend your effort in your ongoing process, and also to supercharging the air traffic control recruitment system, which we worked on in the last FAA bill. But I look forward to working with you and all the stakeholders out there to get this thing done right away, by the way. So, thanks.
Thanks, Secretary Duffy, for inviting me here today, and I want to thank you for the hard work that you put in to get us here today. I do want to start as well by recognizing the families of the January 29th DCA mid-air collision as well. The pain that you're going through is an instigator for all of us to get things right as we move forward on aviation safety. Last year, my colleagues and I came together to draft, and eventually Congress passed, an overwhelmingly bipartisan 2024 FAA reauthorization law, a law that established the to-do list for ATC modernization. So we provided the what-to-do list, and I'm really pleased to see Secretary Duffy and the administration moving forward on the how to get it done list, and leading these critical next steps. You know, we've talked about how this effort sometimes spans administrations. We don't want the effort to span generations. We need to get moving on this sooner rather than later, including any new investments and policy reforms that build on the law to modernize the nation's ATC infrastructure and growing as well the aviation safety workforce. In the wake of the tragic mid-air collision over the Potomac and a trend of runway near misses, we have to get this right. And now there are going to be a lot of proposals to the proposal when it comes out, I'm sure, but Secretary Duffy can look forward to my T&I colleagues in Congress with Sam and me working to formally review that process and getting to a point to make it work. And T&I Democrats will be ready to stand with you, Sean, to improve the safety of U.S. aviation. Thank you very much for having me here. Appreciate it.
I think as these two gentlemen who sit on different sides of the aisle would acknowledge, this is not politics. This is America. It's an American mission, and I am pleased to introduce someone who I got to know way better than I would have. Well, I would have liked to get to know you well, but we spent a lot of time together, and I don't think we've had a better head of the NTSB than Jennifer Hamady, who's looking out for safety, giving ideas on how we can make our system safer across all modes. And so I'm pleased that she's here with us today. Chair of the NTSB, Jennifer Hamady.
Well, thank you very much. I have to say that the Secretary's commitment to safety is real. He started saying that this is bold, but I have to tell you it is absolutely necessary to ensure safety in our skies. So I do want to thank you, Secretary, for inviting me here today. I also want to thank members of Congress, certainly the families. Thank you for being here. And again, our thoughts and prayers are with each of you and many others, our partners in safety. Without your commitment to aviation safety and support of the NTSB, we couldn't do what we do every single day. Certainly all of you are champions for safety, and I see many of you out here today, so thank you for what you do. The NTSB, as you know, can't mandate change. We can't mandate change. We can only make recommendations to improve safety. That's why we need strong partnerships, strong relationships with committed safety partners. That includes the President of the United States, President Trump, Vice President Vance, who I had the honor to work with after a terrible train derailment and tragedy in East Palestine, Ohio. I saw his commitment to safety up front and personal, and I want to thank him and certainly the Secretary and the hardworking men and women here at the Department of Transportation and at the FAA. Now, there's a question I'm often asked, and that's what keeps you up at night? The answer is always the same. It's the next family I'll meet who's lost a loved one on what I can only imagine is the worst day of their lives. And it's the conversations that I have with our investigators on scene about how that tragedy could have, should have been prevented had one of our safety recommendations been implemented. The NTSB has safety recommendations to invest in ATC going back almost 3 decades that we've had to reiterate again and again, most recently following the near misses at JFK and Austin. In Austin alone, and I didn't tell this to the Secretary, he wasn't here yet, we had our final investigative board meeting last June on Austin. We had found that the weather personnel in the tower were in a room that was the old smoking room. They had no windows. The weather personnel had no windows, no cell phone service. They had to go outside to move their cell phone to get service, and they had no access to the internet or FAA intranet that they had been asking for over a year. And ATC didn't have ASDX. All of that is just, to us, unbelievable and unacceptable. In February, I traveled to Alaska following a fatal accident near Nome. I met with pilots who highlighted ongoing safety concerns, including repeated outages of AWOS that sometimes go months without a fix, and gaps in pilot reporting of poor weather, which is something that we're looking into as part of that investigation. And as chairwoman, I've continuously highlighted the need for real infrastructure investments in ATC and in technology that will give our nation's air traffic controllers the tools they need to ensure safety in our skies. I welcome today's announcement. The fact is, an aging system poses an untenable risk to safety. I said it after DCA, I'm going to say it now. An untenable risk to safety. And I am hopeful that the vital investments that we're talking about today will not only bring us closer to implementing NTSB's safety recommendations, but achieving our ultimate goal of zero aviation deaths. It's a goal I know that all of us share. No one entity, though, can do it alone. To save lives, it'll take every single stakeholder at all levels doing their part. And lastly, I think it's important that we recognize this is Public Service Recognition Week. So I want to thank the public servants who keep the national airspace operational 24/7, including over 14,000 hardworking air traffic controllers, 14,000 today, but thanks to Secretary Duffy, growing. So I hope that'll be even more in the future. So it's an honor to fight alongside each of you to improve safety, and thank you for this opportunity to join you today.
Jennifer Mohammadi, she's a great partner. Again, I think she lives, breathes, sleeps safety, and she has been a partner who has been fantastic for all of us. So thank you for that. Now, listen, as I mentioned, we have 55 stakeholders, groups that are here today. Again, from different philosophies, different walks of life, but this group that believes that this mission is critical, that it's good for them, good for Americans, good for America. And this coalition would not have come together the way it has without the Airlines for America President and CEO Nick Callio. Nick, if you would come on up and talk to our group. Nick has been a force to be reckoned with. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. It is truly an honor to be here. Thank the families for being here. Sorry for your loss. Anyway, Airlines for America is the trade association for all the major passenger and cargo carriers in this country. The fact that 5 of our carrier CEOs are here today is a testament to the historic magnitude of what's being undertaken. This is an exciting day for all of us in this industry. I want to thank Secretary Duffy for presenting a plan that begins to address a decades-long problem and the manner in which he's attempting to do it, because we've seen failure in the past. This one will not. It's been pointed out air travel is the safest mode of transportation in this country. No question about it. But for it to remain that way, we need major investments now and all at once. We can't kick the can down the road again. We need to do it now, and that's what's being proposed. Back in February, President Trump vowed that we're going to have the best system. So thank you, President Trump and Secretary Duffy, for delivering solutions, not just more talk. Solutions. Promises made, promises kept. Okay, so I've been holding up floppy disks and paper strips for about 9 years now. And I wasn't going to bring them, but yesterday the Secretary encouraged me to bring them along, so here they are. People can never believe this. But here's the good news. What's happening here today is going to put these things out of business for good. We are deeply appreciative of your bold leadership, and I was going to address Chairman Graves and Ranking Member Larson, Senator Cruz, and Senator Moran, all of whom are stalwart aviation supporters. I do want to deliver a message to what Chairman Graves did in that committee to get that $12.5 billion was remarkable. He's a results getter, and I was going to encourage Senators Cruz and Moran that they need to expand on that work and find more money. But we've been saying that to them already. We continue to. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It's to finally get something done to stop the deterioration of our airspace system. That's why today, and the Secretary's alluded to it, we're announcing a new coalition, the Modern Skies Coalition, which is comprised of over 50 organizations of all types: airports, manufacturers, labor, general aviation, airlines, commercial space, and others. We have never seen anything bring this level of unity to that community since I've been around, and much longer. And the reason is because everybody wants to seize on this opportunity. As the Secretary pointed out, this group often has our differences, but we're glued together here. We are laser focused on making this proposal a reality, and we're going to work together to bring a spotlight on it. The coalition has already released its statement as of a short time ago. There will be, I believe, a reference to a website that I think you'll find extremely informative. So in conclusion, I want to say that earlier this week, the Secretary said, we all fly, our families fly, so let's get it done. We could not agree with you more. I have 4 grandchildren with a 5th on the way, and I want them to grow up with the same confidence in the system that we have all been able to have. So thank you very much.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Fiona G. We just saw there a live look at Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy announcing some proposed plans to modernize the air traffic control system. This, of course, in the wake of those aviation tragedies. We also saw there Missouri Representative Sam Graves speaking. Now, he actually just proposed a reconciliation bill that would provide $15 billion for ATC modernization. All right, we're going to move on from that for now. White smoke rose from the Sistine Chapel today. The College of Cardinals has elected a new pope. Crowds rejoiced as the bells of St. Peter's Basilica tolled today after Cardinals elected the 267th pope to lead the Catholic Church. American Cardinal Robert Prevost has taken the name Pope Leo XIV. Now, Prevost is prefect of the Vatican's powerful dicastery for bishops. Now, the 69-year-old was previously in charge of vetting nominations for bishops around the world. The Chicago-born pontiff has extensive experience in Peru, first as a missionary and then as archbishop. Prevost was a protege of late Pope Francis, who sent him to run the diocese there in 2014. The new pope held that position until 2023, when Francis brought him to Rome for his current role. Prevost said in his first public remarks from the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica, quote, "Peace be with you." President Trump announces his first post-tariffs trade deal with the UK. He's also planning to negotiate a deal with the European Union and is open to reducing his 145% tariffs on China as talks are happening this weekend. Here's NTD's White House correspondent Iris Tao.
We won the war together exactly 80 years ago, so there could be no more perfect morning to reach this historic agreement.
On the 80th anniversary of Victory Day for World War II, President Trump unveiling a new trade agreement with the UK, the first of its kind since President Trump announced a global tariff plan back in early April. This new agreement, Trump says, will bring in billions of dollars and increase market access for American exports.
Especially in agriculture, dramatically increasing access for American beef, ethanol, and virtually all of the products produced by our great farmers.
The larger goal Trump and the UK Prime Minister say is to boost fairness and protect jobs in both countries.
Reciprocity and fairness is an essential and
really important deal. This is going to boost trade between and across our countries. It's going to not only protect jobs but create jobs. Opening market.
Specifically, the agreement will leave in place a 10% baseline tariff that Trump imposed on Britain. But the U.S. will cut its auto tariffs from nearly 30% to now 10% for 100,000 British cars, the UK's top export to the U.S. It will also reduce tariffs on UK steel and aluminum down to zero. That was a joint national security focus. In return, the UK will open access to American beef, ethanol, and other farm products. While details of the agreement remain to be ironed out in the coming weeks, and that the deal serves more like a framework or like a springboard, like the UK calls it, for future cooperation, and the Trump administration officials emphasize that Trump played a major role in closing this deal.
This would have taken Jameson and I
3 years, maybe. And instead, we got it done in 45 days, certainly, because we work for Donald Trump.
And on other countries, President Trump says the U.S. is working on a deal with the EU and that he's open to cutting his 145% tariffs on China, depending on how talks go this weekend between Secretary of Treasury Scott Bessent and his Chinese counterparts. And Trump further says that he wants China to open up and let American businesses in.
But that'll be the greatest thing that ever happened to China. The people will be happier. They'll buy for less. They'll see things that they never saw before, and they'll be buying them. And it'll really create great long-term peace.
But Trump also suggests that the U.S. would have been better off if it didn't do business with China in the first place, adding that it's a good thing that for now, imports from China are down. Reporting from the White House, Iris Tao, NTD News.
The agreement that President Trump calls a breakthrough deal with the UK is on the way, as we've been covering. It impacts many sectors, and Trump says the arrangement will fast-track American goods through British customs. Here's that breakdown.
The U.S.-UK deal gives expanded market access to U.S. ranchers, farmers, and producers. The White House says it's a $5 billion opportunity. That includes the ability to sell $700 million more in ethanol fuel and $250 million more in other agriculture products. These are mainly beef, but also include cereals, fruits, feed, tobacco, soft drinks, and shellfish. President Trump posted on Truth Social that the deal will generate $6 billion in tariff revenue for the U.S. It also renegotiates the Section 232 tariffs on cars imported from the U.K. As such, the U.K.'s first 100,000 autos sold in the U.S. will face a 10% tariff. All autos after that, 25%. Trump says the UK tariffs are coming down to 1.8% from 5.1%, and U.S. tariffs are going up from 3.4% to the 10% baseline tariff imposed on what he called Liberation Day. It will also renegotiate tariffs on steel and aluminum, creating a new trade union for those products. Trump says the agreement will be written up in the weeks to come.
Britain hailed the U.S.-UK trade deal as historic and said that it will save thousands of jobs in the car and steel industries in the U.K. The import taxes had threatened to cripple Britain's high-end car makers. The timing of this announcement coincides with Victory in Europe Day, marking the 80th anniversary of the end of the Second World War in Europe. NTD's international correspondent Malcolm Hudson reports from London.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer said the new US-UK trade deal takes the relationship between the two nations into new territory.
Thank you, Mr. President, Donald, and this is a really fantastic, historic day in which we can announce this deal between our two great countries.
Highlighting the importance, he said wartime leader Winston Churchill declared victory in Europe against the Nazis exactly 80 years ago.
Almost at the same hour, and as we were 80 years ago, with the UK and the US standing side by side, I think is incredibly important and makes this truly historic.
The British government said the deal will reduce tariffs on British car exports into the US from 27.5% to just 10%. British car makers will be given a quota of 100,000 cars per year at this lower rate, which is almost the total Britain exported to the US last year.
And we've got scope now to increase that quota as we go forward, so this is not fixed.
Tariffs on British steel and aluminium exports to the US will also be reduced from 25% down to 0. Starmer said this will save businesses and thousands of jobs in the UK. Exports of plane parts, such as Rolls-Royce jet engines, will also enter the US tariff-free, while a UK airline agreed to buy $10 billion worth of Boeing planes. On agriculture, there will be reciprocal access to beef. British farmers get a tariff-free quota for 13,000 metric tons, while the UK will also remove tariffs for US ethanol, which is used to produce beer. The British government said that Britain's digital services tax will not be changed. It's a 2% tax on revenue earned by big tech firms, such as Amazon, Google and Meta, something Trump has been highly critical of. The British government said they will work with the US on a digital trade deal that will strip back paperwork for British firms trying to export to the US. The blanket 10% tariff imposed on all imports to the US still remains in place. Britain has been seeking a trade deal with the US since Brexit, but until now has been unable to achieve it. Douglas Carswell, a former British politician and now head of a free market think tank, said the deal is a tremendous success.
Incredibly difficult for a Republican administration in America and a left-wing government in Britain to find common ground, but they've managed it. So well done to both sides. This is going to be really good.
And he said other countries will be looking at this deal as an example of what they could agree with America.
Countries like Japan and Korea and Taiwan and India, and they will see in the British-American trade deal today a model that they can take so that they too can have access to the American market and the Americans can have access to their markets.
The United States and Britain will continue negotiating a broader deal and reducing the remaining reciprocal tariffs, saying the final details are still being written up. Malcolm Hudson, NTD News, London.
And on that note, President Donald Trump is speaking at the White House right now. Let's tune in. All right, unfortunately, seems there we just missed what the president said, but we'll update you when we get more information on that. Let's move on now to a panel. We're going to keep on talking about this U.S.-UK trade deal. We're now bringing on Jim Gilmore, former U.S. ambassador to the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe and former Virginia governor, as well as Daniel Lacalle, chief economist with Tressis and author of Freedom or Equality. Ambassador Daniel, great to have you both on today. Ambassador, let's start with you. What do you think of this deal?
Well, I think that it's a good landmark for President Trump. He has made tariffs one of his 4 or 5 key initiatives since he has become the president. He has declared a great deal of national policy. But now this announcement today is with our closest friend, together with the Canadians, our closest friend. The special relationship between the United States and United Kingdom is intact after this very substantial agreement. The agreement does a lot of different variated things, and that will be further discussed. But one thing that it does is it reduces actually barriers for British automobiles and machine parts and so on to go into our economy, which is good for the United States economy. But at the same time, our agricultural products, particularly beef and other grains, are going to go back out to the United Kingdom under more favorable treatment. So I think this is just an announcement of this continuing special relationship, and it underscores it with this announcement today.
All right, Daniel, go deeper. What kind of a tone does this initial deal set here with the UK for future discussions for other EU countries?
Oh, I think it is absolutely critical to make people understand that there can be quick and successful negotiations that are beneficial for both parties. And think about this. The UK is one of the countries that has apparently low tariffs, but enormous non-tariff barriers. So one of the things that is very, very successful from the Trump administration in this deal is precisely to have agreed with the UK government to lift many of those non-tariff barriers, and one of the key ones was precisely the agricultural and farming sector. So I think that those two elements are very, very important, particularly for the negotiation with Japan and with the European Union. I would say specifically with the European Union. We have been hearing for the past week or so a lot of voices saying it's impossible to reach trade agreements so fast. Trade agreements take a very lengthy period of time. Actually, it didn't happen. And it didn't happen because when what you are doing is lifting trade barriers, it's very quick to do. The reason why trade deals take a long time is because mostly bureaucrats, what they want to do is to increase the trade barriers. So I think it's a very, very successful deal. It's also important that it happened between an administration that is a Republican administration in the United States, but a Labour administration in the UK. I think that this is critical because it shows that it's not something that is down to ideology, that is not something down to basic political principles. It's about getting the best deal deal possible for each country, and this is it.
All right, so let's look a little closer here at these numbers and specifically agriculture, as both of you gentlemen have brought up. This deal, it's saying it's going to open up a $5 billion export opportunity for these American producers. So that's including $700 million in ethanol, $250 million in beef and other agricultural products. Ambassador, the president, over the course of his campaign trail, he promised that he would help these farmers and this agricultural sector. How do you think, or what kind of changes do you think realistically these U.S. farmers and ranchers could expect from this?
Well, I think it should be encouraging to American farmers and ranchers. I think that they're going to feel like that the president has really continued to open up those markets for them. And it's good for America's economy. But I think it's also good for the British economy. It looks to me like this is a mutual deal. And to the point that this is a demonstration that you can have mutual agreements that are favorable to both sides. And, you know, one point I guess I would add would be in the future, let's keep our eye on the America-China relationship on terms of trade. The British are friendly people to the United States, and this is a friendly agreement and negotiation. On the other hand, the Chinese have declared themselves to be adversaries to the United States, even though their economy is very tied in to the United States economy. I think that it gives an opportunity to really reduce this aggressiveness that the Chinese have been displaying, but at the same time, to reduce their capacity to build an economy that is going to be adversarial to the United States. So that's something in the future. Meanwhile, to this point, this is a thing to be very happy about, this United States, United Kingdom agreement. It's the special relationship, and it continues to this day.
And I love that you bring up China, Ambassador. We're going to get back to that in a moment. But Daniel, first, tell us about the UK's sentiment from consumers and producers alike when it comes to these U.S. agricultural products, because I, for one, have heard from some UK individuals that they're concerned about the quality of these U.S. exports.
That makes no sense. That makes no sense. If you think about what the deal achieves, is actually an improvement on all aspects. And the UK part of the deal includes that the guarantees in terms of health and safety are going to be untouched. Because obviously this whole idea that American agricultural products or farming products are of low quality is a stupidity, if you allow me to use the word, that is often used by the protectionist, cronyist sectors in some countries. No, that's not the problem. The UK is going to benefit from it. The US is going to benefit from it. But I think it's critical in the UK, the word is relief. Because what everybody knew in the UK from the previous weeks of tariff talks and all the different announcements of Liberation Day, everybody knew that it was going to be a disaster for the UK. It was going to be a disaster for the steel industry, which is about to close. So the steel industry at least is going to be saved. It was going to be an absolute nightmare for the automotive industry. And it was also going to be negative for farmers and for the agricultural sector in the UK, which are already suffering from the internal barriers of the European Union. So the comment that you just made, I find it so funny, because if you're in the European Union, they say, oh, we don't want British beef because it doesn't have the quality that we require. And the British are saying that American beef doesn't have the quality that they require. Well, that is all absolute nonsense. American beef is phenomenal. Every time that I go to the United States, I enjoy it immensely. And the UK beef is also phenomenal. And what all of these countries need to do is what President Trump has achieved with this, which is to start lifting non-trade barriers. I think that this is the key element of the agreement. Figures are coming from the tariff side. I really don't care about that as much. What's really important and what's really going to get a multiplier effect on the economy, both on the United States and the UK in this particular case, is lifting the non-trade, the non-tariff barriers. Sorry.
Ambassador, your response to that, specifically on these non-tariff barriers, Ambassador.
Well, I think he's right. I also would invite all of our United Kingdom cousins to come to the United States to our steakhouses because they really are quite phenomenal. Listen, I think I'd like to focus just a moment on the steel industry and aluminum also. The United States imports, and it's good that we're going to be in a position to import from our best ally, and it's high quality from the United Kingdom as well, because we need that steel for our development here as well. So just because we're importing something doesn't mean that it's a loss for the United States. To the contrary, it's a win for the United States. And I might add that in my previous studies several years ago, it was pointed out to me that China produces steel and wants to export to the United States, but that the quality is not there the way that it is in some of our better import partners like the United Kingdom. So this once again gives us one more vehicle to be sure that we don't have to be so dependent on China as we go forward. Or frankly, I hope in the future that the Chinese change their attitude towards the United States of America and can go back once again to being a more normal country that really wants to improve the quality of their lives as opposed to attacking other people. This kind of announcement today points the way, perhaps, for China to do something in a more civilized way.
To the ambassador's point, Daniel, let's talk about the steel industry and specifically the impact that China has had on the UK steel industry, because it's interesting. It seems that this steel that we're seeing so far, it almost indirectly targets some of these Chinese threats that the president has been talking about. This 25% steel tariff, it's now going down to 0. This is aimed at helping the UK's struggling steel industry, Daniel.
Oh, absolutely it is. Absolutely it is. The UK steel industry has been demolished by two negative factors. One is internal, is the absolutely atrocious energy policy of the different UK governments. That is a fault of the UK on its own. But the other is what the ambassador was just mentioning before, is that there's been a tremendously unfair competition coming from Chinese steel manufacturers that receive gigantic subsidies and that basically don't make a profit. They're basically companies that are running to stand still and that basically try to export as much as they can just in order to balance their working capital requirements, but they're not profit-making businesses. So dumping low-quality steel has been a significant challenge. And this one is a good deal, particularly because it starts to put a solution to something that will require, as Ambassador was saying, a much more significant negotiation with China that has not been playing by the same rules as the UK or the European Union or Japan.
And on the topic of China, Ambassador, part of this deal, it's also creating this secure supply chain for pharmaceutical products. And we've also heard the president saying repeatedly that the U.S. needs to stop relying on China for these types of essential products like pharmaceutical drugs.
Well, again, I think this is the beginning of a shift of American policy. And if I was in Beijing and I was in the government and I was asking myself whether President Xi's aggressiveness is really good for the country of China, you know, I would ask myself, what happens when the United States begins to make their deals and to get their supply chains moving elsewhere? That's really not in China's best interest, but that's tough. As long as they behave in such a false, aggressive way, then we're at liberty to communicate with our best allies and to do something different. Pharmaceutical-wise, I think there's still a lot of negotiation yet to be done in this. And I think that what we're seeing right now, however, is a big win for President Trump, and even a bigger win, I think, for Prime Minister Starmer. I think this is a good leadership for both people, and it's a good announcement, I think, for both countries.
All right, got a couple of minutes left here, gentlemen. Daniel, first to you. There are some concerns. Some people are saying, although this is a preliminary deal, they think that Prime Minister Starmer, he's choosing an imperfect deal over no deal at all. What do you respond to that with?
There's nothing more imperfect than no deal. What people don't seem to understand is that the UK is already in a very dire economic situation. Oh, they do understand it if they live in the UK. However, many people in the UK have this idea that we're going to lift ourselves out of this stagnation basically by singing songs and chanting as some kind of hymn. No, so the problem here is that people cannot expect a deal that in which there is no compromise. Of course, there is a compromise, and it's pretty obvious. But it's a very positive one, and it's a big win for Prime Minister Starmer. It's a big win for Prime Minister Starmer because everybody expected Labour to be very, very aggressive and exceedingly protectionist about anything that had to do with trade and agreements with the United States. This is a positive deal. It's going to save thousands, not tens of thousands of jobs in the poorest areas of the UK that are not particularly in a situation in which they can have the luxury of saying we want no deal. This is a good deal for everybody, and I think that it's been reflected by even the reaction of some of the unions.
And finally, over to you, Ambassador, before we go. As we've been talking about here, the U.S. and UK, it has a very special relationship, similar to what the U.S. has with Canada. And some would assume there'd be an easier time with negotiations, and that may be true to some degree. But then today, when President Trump made the announcement, he also said, you know, this deal, it wasn't easy to make. Your take?
Well, I don't think that any kind of negotiation over billions and billions of dollars on international trade is going to be something you can do in an afternoon. I think it's going to take time to make it all work out. And I think in good faith, this has occurred. One thought that I have that may be a little different is that if you're Vladimir Putin, you can only look at a deal like this among colleagues and friendly nations with jealousy. But he's doing this kind of thing to himself instead of trying to reach some sort of accommodation with people like the United Kingdom, the European Union, and the United States. He's decided to become an aggressor and to be somebody who's cut off from these kind of opportunities. Frankly, if I were the Russian people, I would think twice about continuing that kind of policy in light of what they're seeing right now, this friendly attitude and successful financial attitude between the United States and the United Kingdom.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing what other deals start coming out soon. Ambassador Jim Gilmore, Daniel Lakaya, great having you both. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you
very much.
And President Trump on Truth Social just congratulated the new Cardinal Robert Prevost as the newly elected Pope. President Trump said, quote, "It is such an honor to realize that he is the first American Pope. What excitement and what a great honor for our country. I look forward to meeting Pope Leo XIV. It will be a very meaningful moment." And coming up, the Trump administration invokes state secrets privilege in the deportation case of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. The El Salvadorian national remains in a prison in his home country. We'll be right back.
大提琴不仅仅是一件乐器，它是有生命、有感情的，需要我们精心的照顾。往往我们一个小小的动作，可能都会对人情绪产生微妙的影响。天音的品牌是福星，我们对于传统的理念很荣幸被神韵艺术团选为指定供应商。时间是酿造音色的不可替代的陪伴。我跟大提琴已经有60多年的友情了，每一把琴都有它自己的个性，熟悉它，才能真正发挥它的潜力。所以，我希望给你的每一把琴，都是首先我所信任的。
Hi, I'm Ryan Blaney, a third-generation race car driver, and we dedicate a lot of our time to going as fast as possible. My grandpa Lou is the reason why my dad and I started racing, and I'm really proud to follow in his tracks. But when my grandpa was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it was a very unexpected bump in the road for us. I've learned a lot on this journey with my grandpa Lou, and the memories of my grandpa will always be with me. And in our family, we're used to getting involved, and I encourage you to do the same, especially when it comes to caring for your loved ones. When I think about Alzheimer's and the impact it had on my family, I recognize that losing a race isn't such a bad day after all. It's important to notice if older family members are acting differently, experiencing problems with their memory, or having trouble with routine tasks. Talking about Alzheimer's can be really tough, but if you notice something, have a conversation with your loved one. Encourage them to see a doctor or offer to go with them. Early detection of Alzheimer's can give your family time to explore support services, make a plan for the future, and access available treatments. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
Welcome back. President Donald Trump says that he'll bring up the case of jailed Hong Kong pro-democracy campaigner and media tycoon Jimmy Lai as part of ongoing U.S. trade talks with China. In a radio interview with Hugh Hewitt yesterday, the president said he thinks talking about Jimmy Lai is a very good idea and also added that they'll put it down as part of the negotiation. Now, Lai started the Apple Daily newspaper in Hong Kong with the aim of maintaining free speech. The newspaper closed down in 2021 after authorities raided their offices and froze their accounts. Lai was then arrested and charged under a sweeping national security law that Beijing imposed on Hong Kong. And moving on, top executives at American AI giant OpenAI, Microsoft, and AMD appear at a U.S. Senate hearing today. They're outlining ways that Washington can stay ahead of Beijing in this AI race. A Senate committee is looking to cut regulatory barriers to U.S. artificial intelligence after China's DeepSeek shocked the world with its capability. The U.S. tech industry has seized on that development to lobby the Trump administration for more favorable policies. It's arguing here that promoting worldwide use of AI that reflects democratic values instead of authoritarian ones is a matter of national interest. The Biden administration aimed to cut off China from American AI chips and capabilities over fears that Beijing could use this technology to supercharge its military. The Trump administration has so far taken a similar approach, but it has spurred criticism from some who say the rules restrict U.S. companies and hand the lucrative AI market to Chinese companies. Lawmakers want to leverage funding to higher education institutions in order to stop the Chinese Communist Party's propaganda campaign and IP theft. Last night, they passed a bill on this front. NTD's Melina Wisecup has more.
This bill, which passed on a bipartisan basis in the House, restricts the Department of Homeland Security from funding colleges and universities that have a relationship with the CCP, where it's deemed that the CCP is using that environment to steal research from the U.S., advance the intelligence and military ambitions of the regime, or suppress students' freedom of speech, particularly when it regards them speaking out against the regime itself. While the bill was bipartisan, there were several Democrats who opposed it, some saying they felt that the definition of Chinese entities of concern that the bill addresses is too broad and could have unintended consequences. When asked the chairman of the Democratic caucus about it, he says he opposes the effort because he would have preferred Republicans to use floor time differently in a way that addresses issues closer to home. Listen.
This bill would affect 5 college universities and campuses. Doesn't address driving down costs, doesn't address the healthcare crisis that they're starting, doesn't.
While the bill's author and the chairman of the Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party, John Molinar, said that this issue is closer to home than many might think.
The CCP efforts to infiltrate America's universities are intended to manipulate curricula, suppress academic freedom, and monitor Chinese students here in the United States.
These talent recruitment programs are a win-win for China. China wins twice. First, U.S. taxpayers are funding their research, not China. And second, China then uses the research it would not have otherwise had to advance its own economic and military interests.
Now, this comes at a time when Stanford's independent newspaper just publicly stated that they found out that the CCP is carrying out a widespread intelligence gathering campaign at their university, threatening students to force them to comply and cooperate with the regime. NTD has not independently verified that information, but the report is consistent with what we've seen over the years on several occasions at different universities. Now, with it having already passed the House during last Congress, it stalled in the Senate. Now it's passed the House this Congress. We'll have to see if the new Republican majority in the Senate will make a difference this time around. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weiskup, NTD News.
President Trump suggests that he might get China involved in convincing Russia to end the Ukraine war. Chinese Communist leader Xi Jinping is among the leaders in Moscow today, strengthening ties with the Kremlin. Here's NTD's international correspondent Arian Pazdar.
Chinese leader Xi Jinping on Thursday, joining Russian President Vladimir Putin at a banquet hall in Moscow. Socialist leaders from Venezuela and Cuba are in Russia as well, but Putin called Xi the main guest during this week's visits. Russia is celebrating the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II. Putin and Xi signed a joint statement agreeing to strengthen economic ties. The two countries seek to boost trade and investment by 2030. Putin previously requested a 3-day ceasefire for this week's visits. But a Ukrainian soldier on Thursday says the fighting continues as normal.
There have already been 3 strikes in the 7 hours and 46 minutes of the ceasefire, so the facts speak for themselves.
Meanwhile, in the U.S., President Trump was asked about China's involvement in the peace process.
Will you be asking China to help you close, the gap between Ukraine and Russia?
I think so, yeah. I think it's a natural thing to ask.
This comes as the U.S. is also in talks with China for a possible trade deal. Both countries recently imposed high tariffs on each other.
What do you expect?
Sure, I don't know. I think we're making good progress. Fighting is a little bit different than it was. I think if we weren't involved, Russia would be, going at it to maybe get the whole thing.
Also on Thursday, Ukraine's parliament ratifies a minerals deal with the U.S.
We appreciate that, but the deal is all now signed up and ratified, and we have access to a massive amount of very, very high-quality rare earth.
Ukraine's first deputy prime minister says this document is not merely a legal construct, it is the foundation of a new model of interaction with a key strategic partner. The more than 330 Ukrainian lawmakers unanimously voted in favor of ratifying the deal. Arian Pazdar, NTD News.
Moving on now, the Trump administration has invoked the state secrets privilege in the case of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. The invocation comes as a federal court probes his deportation to El Salvador. The state secrets privilege allows the executive branch to protect national security information from being disclosed in civil suits. The DOJ took the step in a similar case in March as well. Now, that case more broadly challenged the administration's use of the Alien Enemies Act to deport individuals to El Salvador. Meanwhile, a federal judge has blocked the Trump administration from deporting illegal immigrants to Libya or any other third country without notice. The ruling came after reports surfaced of an upcoming military flight carrying detainees to the North African nation. The judge said this would clearly violate an earlier court order that he made. The Alien Enemies Act is an 18th century law that gives the executive branch broad deportation powers. The Trump administration argues that enforcement of the law is necessary to enact its immigration policies. Attorneys for illegal immigrants and civil rights groups claim that the Trump administration is using this law to circumvent due process. C-SPAN is urging the Supreme Court to allow live video coverage of birthright citizenship oral arguments next week. Arguments in Trump v. Casa Inc. will be held on May 15th. Last month, the Supreme Court left in place lower court orders blocking Trump's policy of limiting birthright citizenship for certain individuals and scheduled this oral argument. C-SPAN says the case holds profound national significance, saying that its legal, political, and personal implications will affect millions of Americans. The Supreme Court currently provides a live audio feed of oral arguments on its website. Members of the public may apply for tickets to attend arguments in person. The Trump administration released 60,000 additional files on the 1968 Robert F. Kennedy assassination yesterday. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard says after the release of the initial documents 3 weeks ago, officials searched the FBI and CIA warehouses and uncovered the additional documents. It's not immediately clear if they contain any new information about RFK's killing. Kennedy was a U.S. Senator from New York and former Attorney General running for the Democratic presidential nomination back in 1968. He was shot at an L.A. hotel shortly after delivering a speech that marked his victory in the California and South Dakota primaries. Kennedy was 42 years old. A federal lab in Maryland recently halted high-risk infectious disease research. The facility studies threats like Ebola, COVID-19, and Lassa fever. NIH Director Jay Bhattacharya wrote on X yesterday that it all began with a serious incident involving biosafety. He says a contractor at the lab deliberately cut a hole in a biocontainment suit over a personal dispute with a coworker. Bhattacharya says he won't reopen the lab until he is satisfied that it can be done with zero risk to public safety, writing, quote, "No more lab-generated pandemics." He also criticized the media over the incident. He says they tried to paint HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as an anti-science individual when he was acting responsibly to protect the public from a high-risk lab with a poor safety record. Federal officials yesterday released images of last month's fatal helicopter crash that killed 6 people. The preliminary report shows the New York City sightseeing helicopter broke into 3 sections before then crashing into the river. It says several witnesses heard a number of loud bangs from the helicopter before it broke up and then descended into the river. This report does not draw a conclusion on the cause of the crash. 5 family members and the pilot died in the April 10th incident. A probable cause will be determined in the agency's final report. And an update on tensions in India. Pakistan says it killed 40 to 50 Indian soldiers during the recent fighting. It also says its military used Chinese-made aircraft to shoot down 5 Indian fighter jets yesterday. Pakistan said it shot down the jets after India launched airstrikes on what it said were terrorist sites inside Pakistan and Pakistan-administered Kashmir. India has not responded to Pakistan's claims or confirmed any losses. A spokesperson from the Chinese regime's foreign ministry said they are not familiar with the matter when asked about those Chinese jets. Pakistan also says that it downed 25 Indian drones across the country. It says it did so after what it called a serious provocation from New Delhi that wounded 4 soldiers and killed a civilian. At least 21 airports across northern India were shut today after New Delhi struck 9 sites in Pakistan, raising fears of escalation. Flights continue to avoid the airspace over northern India and Pakistan today as well. Pakistan says Indian strikes yesterday killed 31 civilians. More people were killed on both sides of the border in heavy exchanges of fire that followed. Over to Germany, the country's domestic spy agency has paused its classification of the Alternative for Germany Party as an extremist organization. The AfD hailed this decision in its fight against the designation. The agency said it would not publicly call the party a, quote, confirmed right-wing extremist movement until a court rules on the party's lawsuit against the label. Germany's domestic intelligence service moved last week to classify the AfD as extremist, produced strong reactions among German politicians. Some lawmakers have called for a ban against the party. The AfD has portrayed the effort as an attack on democracy. The controversy also sparked strong criticism here in the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio called on German authorities to reverse their decision. Yesterday, Senator Tom Cotton called for American spy agencies to pause intelligence sharing with German services. And we'll be having our special coverage tomorrow of the annual World Falun Dafa Day Parade. Thousands will be coming together right here in New York City to celebrate the anniversary of the public introduction of Falun Dafa, a spiritual discipline for both mind and body. It's a celebration of faith, freedom, and the strength of the human spirit in the face of persecution. That's going to be tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern, only on NTD News. When we come back, Microsoft founder and billionaire Bill Gates says he does not want to wait that long to give away most of his wealth. He now plans to distribute virtually all of his wealth through his Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. We'll have that story and more in just a moment. Stay with us.
What if you could whiten your teeth by simply brushing your teeth? Now you can with Smile Actives, the teeth whitening breakthrough that safely gets your teeth white and keeps them white every day just by brushing your teeth.
I never thought that whitening my teeth could be so easy. I just put the gel on the brush, the toothpaste on it, brush, and I can see my white teeth.
Simply add Smile Actives to any toothpaste, and our patented PolyClean technology activates into a powerful microfoam that penetrates into the enamel surface to safely lift and remove stains.
You need a simple way to whiten your teeth, without strips, without trays, without going to the dentist. And it was about time that a product was developed that you would be able to do that with just brushing.
And now, Smile Actives is even better with new Pro Whitening Gel with 33% greater whitening power, clinically shown to whiten teeth faster, up to 8 shades. 100% of users saw whiter teeth. On food stains, coffee and wine stains, even on veneers, crowns, and dentures.
I eat the blueberries, I drink the coffee, and I know that Smile Actives will keep my teeth white every day.
If you could use something so easy like Smile Actives to take yellow teeth to white teeth, why wouldn't you?
Why spend hundreds of dollars for whitening treatments at the dentist when now you can whiten your teeth with new Smile Actives Pro Whitening Gel every time you brush your teeth? Call or go to smileactives.com and for a limited time get new Pro Whitening Gel for just $24.95. Order in the next 5 minutes and buy one get one absolutely free for just $24.95. That's 2 for 1 and save 58%. We'll even include free shipping. Get your teeth whiter guaranteed or return it within 60 days for your money back.
I smile every day now.
The difference is literally night and day.
So now I'm always smiling, always choosing, because now my teeth are much whiter.
This offer is not available in stores, so call or click now before the special buy one get one free offer goes away.
When I arrived in the U.S. at 19, I struggled to find job opportunities without a high school diploma. My name is Ariel, and my entire life changed when I took a chance and I got my high school diploma at age 22. Everything I have, my education, my career, my marriage, I owe to the Adult Literacy Center and my teachers. They were with me every step of the way, helping with my English and math, making sure I pushed through all the challenges.
Oh my goodness. So Ariel, we made this earbud for you. It has notes from other people that are here.